Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Protector. This is the last of these new experimental ships coming out for 14.5. Fortunately, these things will be removed in 14.7 at the very start, so you have 2 months with these secondary focused experimental ships. And in the previous 2 videos, we looked at the Hotaka, which is absolutely insane when it comes to damage, as well as the Varese, which is wildly tanky for a tier 10 cruiser, survives an incredibly long time, and has up to 15 kilometers of sap secondary damage that is constant pressure that is not player controlled, and I think that's a really big problem. So today with Protector, we're looking at a tier 8 version of that tier 10 Varese experience. No sap here. This is an American heavy cruiser, battle cruiser playstyle here with an essentially copied over Congress with a little bit worse main guns. But the secondaries have been massively improved. We actually have Napoli secondary accuracy on this one, so a little bit better even than the Varese, which is similar to the Michelangelo. Not having the best secondary accuracy. It's still improved, but not a ton. On cruisers, you don't have many ways to buff your secondary accuracy. So what they come with stock is essentially what you're going to be getting. With this ship in particular, we have a very, very tanky tier 8 cruiser. This is a tier 8 cruiser, remember. This is going up against things like a Mogami. This is going up against a Cleveland. This is going up against Hipper. Don't mind me, we're just going to sit in front of a Richelieu and brawl it out at 11.3 kilometers with these secondaries. Already up to 13.1 kilometer secondary range. As with the other experimental ships, this one also retains that insane fight or flight buff. This time, with this round, of course, we're getting the secondary battery reload time and range buffs. So on this one, we're getting up to a 30% reload buff on our secondaries, as well as 16% range on those secondaries when we're at 25% HP. Very, very, very powerful for a tier 8 cruiser. This one also gets a small buff on release. I didn't quite get to play with it, unfortunately, but it really is only the rudder shift being buffed by a couple seconds. So it really doesn't impact my playstyle all that much. With a ship like this one, we actually have 27 millimeters of armor on our bow and stern, so into a Richelieu, we actually get to auto bounce his AP. Just as he'll auto bounce our AP, but we have improved pen angles because, again, this is a Congress hull. This is an American battle cruiser. And while I'm not a huge fan of battle cruiser dispersion, this even having a little bit worse reload, the AP alpha is down too. It's still an insanely powerful ship for tier 8. This can face against tier 6 ships. I often consider tier 6 to be the start of the game. I don't really consider tier 4 and below as really any sort of playstyle. Like, think about it as a new player. You're playing in bot games for the most part in those matches at those tiers. You get into tier 5, tier 6, that's when the game really starts for you. And suddenly you run into a Protector. What do you do, man? And I think that's the main conversation I want to have. I've been really questioning, trying to figure out my opinion on these secondaries in the game. Not just for these experimental ships, but all secondaries in general. We've seen a ton of power creep over the years when it comes to secondary damage, range, accuracy, and consistency. And overall, I generally enjoyed secondary battleships. I had a ton of fun with them in the past, and I wonder why I'm not enjoying them so much now. I think it's because they've made them too good. Blind fire, by the way, possibly the most disgusting blind salvo I've had in a very long time, especially with battlecruiser dispersion. I don't know, that poor man, that poor Dallas, bro. What do you do? What do you do against this? Okay, calm down, calm down. We can have a normal conversation about this. I enjoy secondary brawling ships, and I think what it comes down to is I enjoy the brawls. It's not the secondaries. That adds a little bit of flavor, a little spice. It's like fireworks going off in the background that makes it seem more action-packed than it actually is. These days, I really do want more control over my ship, and when secondaries in the past were a nice gimmick to have at closer ranges, but they didn't dictate and win the fight for you, I thought they were a cool addition to brawls. But these days, the way they are set up now, especially with the new Libertad line, but also things like Valparaiso, which survives forever off of its heel, thanks to those secondary hits, and now with these experimental ships boosting things even further, making things like Schlieffen look like a baby's toy when it comes to secondary firepower. The Protector here is not going to be doing a ton of damage with these secondaries. It's only 21 mil pen. You got 5% fire chance. But for a tier 8, we're easily outranging and DPMing something like a Massachusetts. Although he can buff his accuracy further. So the hitting DPM is going to be a little better on a Massachusetts. But 13.2, we're going to start secondary in this Nagato right now. It's insane. It's insane. I think it's gone too far. There is some hope, though, I think, for secondaries in this game, particularly surrounding the proposed German heavy cruiser line. If you haven't seen that dev blog, they're looking at adding manual secondary control. So actually you, the player, in control of your secondaries on a German heavy cruiser, battle cruiser line. And I think that is a really interesting way to go about it, and I'm massively in favor of that. One of the big problems with secondaries is that it is not player controlled. So when you're fighting it, it feels like the game is just winning the game for the enemy player. It feels like I'm not actually interacting in a PvP sense. Where have I heard that criticism before in a PQ video? Maybe a carrier or a sub complaining video? Yeah, that wasn't a great realization when I started thinking about secondaries in this game, and suddenly a lot of the complaints coming up in my head aligned a lot with carrier and submarine complaints. The lack of counterplay. What do you do against this? You simply run away. Don't get in range. That's not good gameplay. I don't think that's good game design. I'm really disappointed in the direction that these experimental ships have gone. Yes, we get a lot of hits with this one, maybe not too much damage, but consider that any hits, any damage we get into DDs, cruisers at these tiers, most cruisers aren't getting heals, let alone the insane healing we're getting here on Protector. It's all perma damage. So every single little hit you get on a destroyer is one step closer to that ship being sunk, or getting it low enough HP that it can't afford to play nearly as aggressive. It's really, really punishing this ship in the matchmaker pool. We have 12.5 secondary range here, and we're on essentially 3/4 HP right now. 12.5 secondary range, by the way, is the maximum you're getting out of a fully built tier 10 battleship. There's some F keys, of course, these days, but think about a GK. Fully built secondary GK gets 12.5, and we're a tier 8 here. Yeah, the secondaries don't pen as much, but this is too far. This is way too far for the game. Fortunately, we only have to deal with this for a couple of months, but I really hope Wargaming goes towards the idea of manual control of secondaries overall. I think that'd be a lot more fun to play with, just giving you more to do, more to interact with, but also to play against. Having the computer control the secondary targeting means there's no skillful dodging of the secondaries, where if a player controlled these secondaries, for the most part, I think you'd hit less, actually. American DD guns are hard to lead, especially at 13 kilometers. I don't know if you've ever tried to play a range mod Fletcher or something like that. Definitely don't recommend it. But if they gave player control over these secondaries, they'd actually be worse. When you think about it like that, it'd be really difficult to hit your target. Not only that, but you'd be spending time, but as a player, actively controlling those secondaries. So that's time not spent considering your map position, considering flanking opportunities, or getting yourself prepared for capping zones, dealing with potential enemy flanks, that kind of thing. You can get caught off guard if you get too zoned in on just firing high DPM guns. I know that's a weakness of mine. Something like playing Colbert, for example. I have a tough time getting good games in that ship. I can do it, but nowhere near as consistent as someone like John. I think that's maybe the most impressive part about watching someone like John the Ruthless. Definitely go check him out, by the way, if you haven't. He plays Colbert at an insane level. All ships in the game, but Colbert in particular is just such a joy to watch because he gets the DPM on target with such slow shell velocity, which means there's a lot of thought going into his aim, while still positioning his ship extremely well, responding to enemy positions. That is the hard part, doing both at the same time. And with secondaries giving you, I mean, more than Colbert range. It's more than, okay. Let's have a calm, normal conversation. We can talk about this normally, okay? I don't have to freak out. You don't have to think about leading this. This little chip damage here we're getting on this Z23, sure, it's only 1,000 damage here or there, like, or maybe even 100, 200 if it's a superstructure saturated hit or something like that. but every 100, 200 points of damage a DD takes is extremely important. That's why we talk about impacting the destroyer engagement early is so crucial to winning a flank, even if you don't have a radar, right? If you're a cruiser without a radar, maybe you feel like, oh, I'm not a utility player, I'm just here to farm damage. But there's a lot of battle impact you can have just by aiming your guns at the DD, going after the DD instead of trying to land the initial fires on a battleship and get them to damage control to permafire. Which I definitely do that sometimes. I get a little greedy damage farmer gremlin brain going on from time to time, but there's a lot of battle impact in that. And when it's just computer controlled secondaries, I don't think that's fun to play against. Playing it gets boring too, because I'm not in control of the engagement. Something like Valparaiso that we're pushing enemy spawn. Remember how I tell you never push enemy spawn? There's a Valparaiso in this game, and I'm in a protector, so let's just send it and see what happens. We're gonna get in trouble here soon. I didn't play this particularly well, but still, the fact that we can push enemy spawns this aggressively and still succeed and spoil it a little bit, we're gonna win this game. Oh, hey, there's a Groningen on our flank. I didn't even notice. Notice I whipped my camera around. What are my secondaries shooting at? I wasn't paying attention. Let me go shoot this guy before he gets into his smoke screen. Unfortunately, I do miss with my main guns. A bit of a skill issue there. But why are they opening up before I even click? I know that's how they're programmed to run, right? But lack of situational awareness there, and the secondaries just go and do it. It's too automated. It's too difficult to counter, or the counterplay is simply to run away. A lot like carriers, a lot like subs. Just don't get in range. Don't let them get close to you. Obviously, the carrier is the exception. You know, subs you can actually run away from. A carrier can just walk over to you and click on you. But this is just an aura-based damage that is purely automated, and it gets incredibly powerful as you get to lower HP. And I went broadside on. I took some big hits, which is good. I don't think generally Protector is going to take that many Citadels. It shouldn't, based on the armor profile, I don't think. But we took some hits there, yet we still survived for a very long time, because at tier 8, we get ourselves a 30k heal. We can get 3 of those, maybe even 4 if I take Superintendent. We're not going to get full value out of it, because you only heal 60% pen damage. Although standard cruisers and battleships will heal 50% pen damage, so it's already a lot better. I'm not sure what Wargaming is thinking with these experimental ships. I hope they reconsider the whole experimental ship idea. I hope we don't see this come back, but I'm a little worried about the direction that this shows the development of the game going in. And if you haven't seen it yet, we're actually getting a new leaderboard with this new update, and it's specifically only available for you to play Oregon, which was the previous iteration of these experimental ships. Still available, but the first iteration, the tier 10 here. And you can get yourself a Johnson if you get some of the highest damage, top 25 in this, which is cool. A bit cynically, I guess, I would say that this is to boost the play rate of experimental ships. So that gives me a bit of hope that maybe we're seeing on Wargaming is seeing in the statistics on the back end that experimental ships weren't that successful. But also maybe this is a way to artificially boost that so it looks good. Maybe that's reading into it too far. Maybe that's reading into it too far. But I'm a little nervous about how these experimental ships have gone. Both iterations have been very unfun to fight against for different reasons. The shells, the burst fire was just better on the initial round, and then these latest rounds are just well, it's just AI secondaries, right? Or computer-controlled secondaries that go incredibly long distances and are just constant chip damage with Protector and Varese here, where Hotaka is just an insane secondary threat with the alpha damage in the pen here. The pen is what really makes it on the Hotaka. Here we only get that 21 mil pen. Suppose I could have tried IFHE on it to get, I'd get 26, I believe. Not up to 27, but 26. If I get the down tier, imagine facing Colorado, Negados, New Mexicos. You pen them everywhere with your secondaries. That could have been funny. But I'll be honest with you, I was getting a little bit bored of playing these things. I think that's what it comes down to, man. It's been so long since we started this game, and I really loved the secondary brawler playstyle. And I think finally, with with these ships. Maybe it's taken me too long, but I think I'm finally there where secondaries just aren't that interesting because that's all that these ships do. And I really enjoy the close range brawling action game, and secondaries were a part of that. So I think that's why I liked secondaries so much. It wasn't for the secondaries. It was for the action-packed gameplay that brawling brought, and secondaries were just adjacent to that, I suppose. With these ones, though, can we really call 15 kilometers, 14 kilometers close range? Is that close range at tier 8? Maybe at tier 10 and super ship tier, considering how passive everything is, we can call that close range. But even then, I would prefer we see ships be nerfed at long range instead of buffing ships' ability to push into a base spawn camp, which is what these seem to have done. I would have preferred that we see different changes to long range, overmatch, sniping battleship play, HE battleship play, SAP. I mean, Columbo from range is crazy difficult to fight. Long range, open water cruisers, pre-kited angling in spawn, and there's not much you can do about it. I would prefer to see those playstyles be nerfed rather than introducing some ships like these experimental ships, like Valparaiso, that are capable of pushing into that because they're so absurdly tanky and have such absurdly long range secondaries with such amazing concealment. That's the other thing here. Our detection on all of these ships is incredibly good, getting us very close to our secondary range. We're starting at 11.6. Something like a Massachusetts has 11.3. And yes, on our commander, we're not able to buff the accuracy of those secondaries nearly as much as we do with manual secondaries on battleships. But because of that, they've buffed up the base accuracy to Napoli levels. And that has instant accuracy. Do you guys remember on battleships when we had the manual secondary change? This was a very long time ago now. But manual secondaries used to give you the full buff instantly. And that made it very hard on destroyers that happened to get spotted for a couple seconds, and then there's this rain of hyper-accurate secondary fire from a Schlieffen. They changed it so there's a spool-up time of 45 seconds to get you that full 50% buff. But if you're playing a cruiser that doesn't take that for accuracy, but you're playing a cruiser that is secondary focused, well, they buffed the base accuracy, and that's instant. That's just there. That's how we got such good accuracy on some destroyers at close range there, like in that first match. It's very strong. Very, very strong, and not particularly enjoyable to play against, unfortunately. Couple months though, and these will be gone. So if you're not interested in these, also a unique feature here, 28 mil upper belt. So I don't know if that actually impacts our overmatch. No, I guess it doesn't actually. 28 is overmatched by 406 exactly. I wonder why that's 28 and that's 27. Weird. No gameplay impact there, but interesting. 36 mil deck armor is quite strong, as well as having what appears to be a below waterline citadel. We took some hits though. I guess plunging fire can get through it pretty good, and yet we still survived with an absolute ton of healing. Yeah, it is a 2-minute cooldown on this heal, but you pack in essentially 2 or a little more than 2 normal heals into one here. Very, very powerful ship, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Wargaming's thinking with all of these experimental ships coming into the game. I hope it is just some wild testing they're doing to not bring things into the game, certain things into the game. I don't know, but this hasn't been a good look for this year. I have not enjoyed having these ships in the game personally, but you can let me know what you think in the comments down below on that. I would be very curious on your opinion of having these in the game. Let alone, have you been interested in getting them at all? I think for a lot of people, these being temporary ships that are, by the way, available here in the tech tree, only available to 14.7, you can get some coal for playing them, but to spend so many credits on them, I actually haven't looked at how many credits it costs to get all of these, but for the first round, it was over 40 million credits, and this is actually my main account. It is, I am a CC, so I do get bonuses, so this isn't exactly real, but plenty of my friends also who have normal accounts that have been playing this game a long time have just ridiculous amounts of credits, so they can afford to just spend the credits and not really think about it. But for a new player, you don't have many credits to spend. If you're grinding through tier 8, tier 9, tier 10 and fully kitting those ships out, you're spending 30, 40 million credits every time you're doing that. And that'll quickly put you down to 0 credits. And I guess it's just for experienced players to play around with these for a couple months and for newer players to deal with in the matchmaker, which is not a great look either for beginners. I could rant a long time about this. I already brought it up, but imagine you're new to this game in 2025. You pop out of the protected matchmaker, the bot matchmaker, into tier 5, tier 6 games. Imagine you get matched into double carrier, triple sub, and these tier 8 experimentals at a tier 6 game, and you're new to the game. Are you going to want to continue to play? I don't think so. Maybe you'll just assume you played wrong, even though it's no fault of your own. That's really disappointing. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I've ranted, I've rambled a lot in these past 3 videos. Not been the most coherent, I apologize, but thank you guys for watching regardless. This one has been interesting. It's been a little eye-opening. Obviously been thinking about this ever since the Libertad line released about secondaries and their role in this game. And I think for now, I'm not particularly in favor of the current iteration of secondaries. I'm hopeful that these manually controlled ones will be interesting. Just hope that they don't go too far on the range, DPM, and accuracy. And suddenly we have extremely tanky versions of Colbert's running around, where suddenly you just manually control your secondaries to DPM everything down at 12 to 15 kilometers. Hopefully that's not what we see. But manual control would be a good step. I think we need more of that, more player control, more player agency, and less of this automated stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.